Epic Originals presents The Sound of Magic, Book 1, written by Debbie Rigaud, illustrated by Brittany Bond. Chapter 1, Josie. Clang! I sprang to the feet at the sound of the dismissal bell and raced out of the classroom before the ringing stopped. My grandmother, Grande Louis, had asked me to be home on time. Not under or over, on time. Right after school, Mumselle. Grande Louis had stressed through pursed lips. Whenever she used the sassy French word for Missy, I knew she meant business. I'd hear peculiar words, sayings, and stories from my grandmother for the better part of my 11 years. Grande Louis was from the Mother Isles, a cluster of tropical islands of the mainland, and she kept her traditions alive. This was Tropaville, after all. Every islander who settled here brought their culture with them. As I darted to my locker, I passed bright, splashy posters in the hallway. The posters announced auditions for my favorite Tropaville tradition, the Islanders' Day Carnival. Carnival was a huge celebration where top bands played and squads of dancers dressed in masquerade costumes leapt and spun around the streets. Tropaville kids were allowed to perform at Carnival, but they had to audition first. My dance audition was the next day, although my parents wanted me to try out as a musician instead. But I was a dancer, and the audition was my chance to prove it. I even planned to wear a special costume during my tryout. Grande Louis would help me make it, if I was home on time. As the other sixth graders from my class reached their lockers, I slammed mine shut and headed for the door. Just as I was about to exit, I saw my classmate, April. She stood wide with her hands on her hips, blocking my way. "What's the rush, Josie?" April sing-songed, a sneer on her lips. April was a dancer too, and ever since she found out that I was auditioning for Carnival, she had been treating me like her rival. The way I saw it, there was room for both of us. Weren't we all choppy villagers? Getting ready for my dance audition. Good luck at yours, I said. With one fast dart, I sidestepped her and raced outside. The fresh breeze cooled my face, and the afternoon sun tickled my skin. I smiled. All of Tropaville rumbled with rhythm, and I fell right into step with it. I walked over a sidewalk grate, blowing warm subway air, and marveled at the familiar jostle of the arriving train. My long, lanky strides gobbled up 2 whole blocks after I heard the unmistakable tuck, tack, tuck, tack rhythm of double Dutch ropes. Some girls were jumping in a church parking lot. I could practically taste the excitement of being between the ropes. "Can I get a jump in?" I asked. "Hop in," said the girl standing closest to me. "Squee!" I shouted as I jumped in. Everyone burst out laughing. I knew that Grande Louis was waiting, but this wouldn't take long. Besides, my famous speed walking would help me make up for the lost time. For now, I was in the ropes, playing with gravity. I kept a steady 1-2, 1-2 rhythm as I danced over each rope. It felt like dancing, and it sounded like April's voice. "Don't mess up," she yelled. Mid-skip, I caught April's smirk. She sliced through my concentration and tripped up my rhythm. In a heartbeat, my steady 1-2, 1-2 pace became 1-2, ouch. I stumbled and landed all wonky on my ankle. I swallowed the cry of pain wobbling on the tip of my tongue. I didn't want to cause a scene, and I definitely didn't want anyone making a big deal out of this. Plus, I didn't want to give smug April the satisfaction. "Thank you," I said, waving to the double Dutch team like my ankle wasn't totally throbbing. "Are you sure you're okay?" asked one of the turners. I nodded and forced a smile. I didn't make eye contact with April as I headed out of the parking lot and continued home. I walked much slower, thanks to my aching ankle. I had a terrifying thought. If walking made me wince, how much worse would dancing feel? Would this heal by tomorrow? What if it didn't? If I missed my dance audition, my parents would want me to try out for the band's horn section instead. I would never get to prove myself as a dancer. My heart sank under the weight of my thoughts. The only positive thing I could think of was that Grande Louis would take one look at my limp and forgive my tardiness. Honk honk! A car waiting at the stoplight pulled my attention away from my troubles. From the large gray afro, it was easy to tell who was driving. My neighbor, Madame Laroche, was behind the wheel and shouted out to me, "Josie, Josie, with so much flair," she sang, crooning one of Grande Louis' most famous hits. "Throwing a big party, and she'll be there," I sang in response. Even though I was way off pitch on the second line, I didn't inherit my grandmother's angelic voice, or even my parents' genius musical abilities. Like many choppy villagers, I loved music, but the way I expressed that love was by dancing to it. The green light entered our street duet, and we waved goodbye to each other. I continued my slow walk home. When I saw Mr. Wilson just ahead, stocking his sidewalk fruit stand with yellow-green mangoes, I took a quick glance at the clock tower farther down the avenue. "It's 3:20, Mr. Wilson," I cheerfully reported before he could ask me for the time, as he did every afternoon. Mr. Wilson reached up a leathery brown hand and tipped his fedora to me. "Thank you, Patna," he said. In the English-speaking part of the Mother Isles, that meant partner or pal. I continued limping down the street until I heard something new. Beyond the rattle of manhole covers, the rumble of the subway, and the melodic lilt of islanders' chatter, there was a rhythmic thumping that drew me down the street. I winced and picked up my pace, eager to find out where the sound was coming from. There, drumming on the corner of Marley and Hines, was the quiet new kid in my class. I didn't know he was a musician. I stood there watching his fast-moving hands, and I instantly forgot that I had somewhere else to be.